Vandy lands an electric wide receiver.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
To the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's episode, we're going to take a look at what the Vandyboys changes means for the program. We'll talk about that. It's round 2 of official visits during CMA Fest, by the way. But there are more commits on the horizon, maybe. We'll see. But before we get there, one commit has jumped on board. He will be electric for Vandy. Welcome aboard, Cameran Dickson. So we talked about him as a possible commit. He visited last weekend, and he was somebody that I thought had a really good positive visit, raved about it, kind of felt like he was going to jump at some point just by reading the reactions of what he was talking about. He must have been, as he was trying to decide, he must have listened to me talk about him on, I believe it was Tuesday's episode and maybe even Wednesday's episode. I talked about him twice, actually. But he's somebody that I thought then would be a really good fit. And now that he's on board, I really, really like this move a lot. And his junior stats, he had 69 catches, 1,141 yards, and 16 touchdowns, and then also 2 punt returns and 1 kickoff return as well. I absolutely love this. Now, I was thinking he's out of Flower Bluff High School in Corpus Christi, Texas. I was thinking Houston had a really good shot at it. I was thinking TCU had a really good shot at him. And, obviously Vandy's going to have their work cut out for them to, keep this commitment in the era of NIL. But that's where I thought he was originally going. I was like, he probably had a good visit. He's a Texas guy. TCU is a tempting offer. Houston's a huge tempting offer. But I think the allure of the SEC probably was the thing that put him over the edge. I'm not going to say that him listening to my show was the thing that put him over the edge, but he must have listened to my show, and that must have put him over the edge. No, but in all seriousness, this move is phenomenal for a lot of reasons. You watch his film, he really, really jumps out. He jumps off the page at you. I like how just sudden he is, just how smooth and explosive he is. The guy just has a knack for making big time plays, and it solves a special team issue too, because he did kickoff and punt returns for Flower Bluff High School. So that also, if you get a dynamic return guy like that, and a guy that's built to be able to take a few hits and be able to do the things that returners need to do and really just kind of run into the fray. He's somebody that will do it, can do it, and probably can hold up. He is, the thing that you get with Texas high school football is this: you get well-developed players, both physically, mentally, and football IQ wise too. You get guys that are just they're probably closer to their ceilings coming out of Texas high school football, but they come more ready to play. They're not quite as raw coming from the state of Texas, because we all know how football is treated down there in the state of Texas. But that's one thing that you'll see that you'll like. He'll come in to this weight program. He's 175 pounds now at 6'2". He'll probably end up playing at about 200 pounds or so by the time he's in the lineup. And he's somebody that I think could be in the lineup very, very soon when he gets onto campus. You have a lot of transfer portal guys at receiver spots, so there's going to be some openings. There's going to be some opportunity, and with the freshmen that came in. This recruiting class, you have some pretty good speed in your wide receiving core down the pipeline a little bit. I mean, you have a pretty explosive bunch there, and he adds to that with the 2025 class. So that being said, with what Tim Beck and Jerry Kill want to do offensively, how does he fit? Well, Diego Pavia will be gone by the time he gets on campus, so you'll have somebody that can really kind of push the ball downfield, and I think that's going to be his main calling card. Obviously, as I said, the aforementioned special teams roles, the return opportunities that he's going to have, him and Micah Bell, I think, are going to be, Micah Bell being the transfer from Notre Dame, who's going to be around for a little while. I think having those two with return capabilities can only bolster you in special teams. But offensively, the first element is just his explosiveness down the field, being able to run intermediate to deep routes, posts, fades, double moves, things like that. Just being able to get behind the defense several times with some of that stuff, I think will prove really, really well. I think especially the double moves, he's going to be really good in that regard, because Vandy's going to, their goal is to gain success, and maybe Gabe Fields is up next in the commitments. He's a running back. Maybe you get some good running backs in the system, and now play action comes in, and the double moves, the pump fakes, the things like that. With you running RPO stuff where you're attacking short zones, things like that. But he can do some third level RPOs. He can run some slants, some fast screens, some quick game, things like that. I mean, he's a guy that can do a lot of everything, and he's a really good utility guy, physical, not shy of contact. So he's going to block downfield as well. So he can help his teammates out. So just a guy that I'm really kind of impressed with, just his overall game. And that fits, the psychology of somebody like that too. People don't talk about the mental aspect of the game. People don't talk about the emotional intelligence part of the game. That's often overlooked because we see these guys as robots. Like, we see these guys as, hey, you're going to come in here and you're going to perform. Emotions just kind of go out of it, And I think he's somebody that can come in and be a catalyst, truthfully. And he's somebody that I think has a little bit of something about him that will endear him to his teammates, because, with what I've noticed with this bunch. Now, I use the word swagger, which swagger often means outward stuff, kind of what you're seeing Colorado do and things like that, that has that connotation. But swagger to me is just an overall confidence. Like, you're walking around just, hey, I know I can ball. I know I can do this. I know that I'm the guy. Give me the ball and I'll prove it to you. Or get the ball to my guy right here and I'll block for him and I'll let him prove to you that we are that team that's going to be tough to deal with, and you have to deal with us all. And I'm going to kick your butt all the way up and down the field, not only in pass routes, but I'm going to block you. I'm going to be physical. I'm going to hit you in the return game. Like, he's a catalyst, man, and people will latch onto that. And he's somebody that seems to have a little bit of gravitational pull, and seems to be gravitational pull in the right way. I mean, you see some of these clips and guys are just drawn to him. And just making plays and doing your job, man, that's, as simple as it is, that's probably all you need. And so I'm thoroughly impressed with this guy. I think he'll fit in great at Vanderbilt. He's, again, just adding to a much needed wide receiver room that's still probably not as deep as you'd want it to be. But it's again, coming off a 2-10 season. Building depth is tricky. It's a challenge, and you have some portal guys that you've relied on to kind of bridge the gap. Now, with the improvements in recruiting, portal guys, portal guys may just come back down to, hey, we're going to fill a need here or there with some portal guys, and that's okay if you have recruits that you really like and that you feel like can really play. And this guy, obviously, can really play. TCU wants him, Michigan State wants him, Houston wants him, and there's probably more. But those are some of the notables. But he's unranked right now. But I imagine with the offers that he's picked up and probably some of the camps he may participate in, I imagine he will get a ranking here pretty soon. But honestly, just watching him play, it doesn't matter about the ranking. I mean, good Lord, this guy high points the ball. This guy makes really good contested catches. He's really good against press. He can run jet sweep. He can run short stuff, things like that. Again, in this league, he'll probably have to get a little bit more detailed in his route running. Probably have to be more precise with that, because that's going to be the difference in separation, because everybody's good in this league. So you need kind of that difference maker, and running good, clean, crisp, precise routes will do that. And I think if he can do that and learn to do that, because sometimes in high school you get these guys and they're just the best freaking athlete on the field, and you don't have to be precise. And in the SEC, you have to be precise. And there's, again, that's not a knock, but if there's something that you're looking at that he can improve on, it's that. And then just continuing to, do the things he does well, and taking the coaching and, just being able to assimilate into that college culture. So welcome aboard, Cameran Dickson, first of many, hopefully. And this was a great addition here, electric addition for the Vandy offense. So I hope that he's on board come December when he can sign for the first time. So, but maybe there's more to come, because there's another round of official visits, round 2. It's during CMA Fest. There's a lot of people in town and a lot of recruits in town. We'll talk about who's here, who could commit, who's the favorite, who's the big targets, all of that next. All right. Passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning championships, as well also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Hey, are you watching ESPN or Fox Sports and you're tired of turning down the TV with all that shouting? Well, look no further. You need to tune in and make the switch to Locked On Sports today. That's right. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So that's 3 commitments out of last weekend's official visit slate, with probably a 4th one to come. I think Gabe Fields is right there on the edge. We talked about him being a dynamic running back, 6 foot, 200 pounds, a guy that can run between the tackles and, simple pass concept stuff, and can be really kind of a 5-tool type player. But there is some official visits coming this weekend, and there's some studs. There's some studs on the list here. There's some guys that I think if Vandy gets, you're going to talk about them in a different light, because and I know people get enamored with recruiting rankings and, this guy's a 3-star, this guy's a 4-star, this, that, and the other. I guarantee you, it's about fit. It's about talent. It's about they're looking for specific skill sets. Okay. And these guys are amazing. And I'm not just saying that to justify. Some of these guys haven't been ranked yet. It's always nice for publicity's sake, to get a 4-star. I mean, 4 stars are 4 stars for a reason. Most of the time, it's not an exact science, but It is also CMA Fest, so it's going to be an interesting weekend here for Vandy. It could be a really good weekend for Nashville in a lot of ways. But here's some guys, and we'll go through the list, and then I'll kind of go through and talk about like what each of them kind of brings to the table. You have Caden Daniels, who's a 6-foot safety out of Crisp County, which is in Cordele, Georgia. You have Matthew Parker, 6'8", 300-pound offensive lineman from Jackson Prep in Mississippi. He has other offers from Duke, Florida State, Houston, Memphis, and others. And he might be on the table. He's a 3-star kid out of Mississippi. We'll see. That could be one. Keep your eye on that. Nick Moore, talked about him setting his official visit. He's had this one on the calendar for a while. He's from Jefferson County here in Dandridge, Tennessee, 6'2", 290 defensive tackle, 3-star. If he was 6'4", 6'5", he'd probably be a 4-star. If he was 6'6", he'd be a 5-star. This guy's outstanding. He's taken an official with the Vols. Tennessee has offered him, so not like he's, if Tennessee likes him, hell, I like him. Austin Howard, this is going to be the X factor in this recruiting weekend because he is a commit. He is excited about it. I think he is going to be rock solid, despite what others think of him having to fight for or Vandy having to fight for his commitment. I think he's going to be rock solid. I think you're going to get some commitments this weekend because Austin Howard is there and pumping things up, and he's going to be pumping that Vandy spirit going through there and making sure that people understand that this is the place to be now. Things have changed a lot, and he's going to spread that word, and he's going to make sure that we've got some guys on board. We need you, especially Nick Moore and Matthew Parker. I think those guys are going to be prime targets for Austin Howard. Wouldn't shock me if one of them two committed out of the weekend. And I wouldn't shock me if I came back on here Monday talking about Matthew Parker committing. I think he is all set. He just needs that little extra push, right? And at 6'8", 300 pounds, you're probably gonna need a little bit bigger of a push, but this guy is exciting, man. He's 6'8", 300 pounds. I mean, if Vandy can get a guy like that, that just looks the part, it's been holy cow, man. It's going to be awesome. And Coach K, if you ever hear me talk about Coach K, I'm not talking about Coach Krzyzewski because this is not Locked on Duke, but Chris Klinakis, the offensive line coach, is he's after this guy, and rightfully so. I mean, the dude's tape is ridiculous, right? So you look at him, he's a tackle. Plays on the right side. I think it's just out of need, but he's just burying dudes, right? He is the right tackle. And if you want to treat, if you're into that kind of thing, which if you like, I'm gonna call this breakfast tape because there's a lot of pancakes. You can quote me on that, everydayers. But again, breakfast tape because there's a lot of pancakes here. This guy's absolutely incredible. Vandy needs to get this guy, right? He needs to commit. So Matthew Parker, if you're listening, Mr. Howard, Austin, if you're listening to this is the guy you need to go after. If you want to see some road grading, if you want to see some pancakes, that's a dude right there. Also, Nick Moore is also somebody that would be a massive target. I really, really like his skill set. I think he's dangerous. I think it's underrated for guys that have low center of gravities, especially in the defensive line. I mean, you look at the way he plays, and he's got a motor, dude, and he can move a little bit. I mean, his first clip is a pick, right? It's a pick and subsequent fumble. He's not going to carry the ball. He's not going to be a refrigerator Perry. But I mean, this guy's impressive, man. He can move. He's tough. He's physical. He can move. He's going to be a special guy. And I really like what he brings to the table. I might have to teach him how to create his film though, because I about turned his film off a few times, but he got to, I think one of my feedback to him is we got to tighten his film up a little bit. So we got constant action, but I mean, the guy's strong. I just saw him fling an offensive lineman and just go make the play. I mean, this is just what you need, man. High motor, probably talking a lot, probably letting you know that he's there and he's going to be there for a while, and just, again, leverage and things like that. But I mean, he's just so quick off the ball, man. That would be, he's somebody that has offers from West Virginia, South Florida, Wake, Indiana, and Mississippi State. Again, I think Vanderbilt needs to just convince him that, hey, we don't care that you're 6'2". We just care that you can get off a block and make a play in the backfield, get some pressure on the quarterback, push the pocket from the inside. That's all we need to be able to know that you know how to do. So those are the official visitors that are coming in this week. 2 massive targets there with Nick Moore and Matthew Parker. That's not to downgrade Caden Daniels or disparage his importance, because the safety position is just as important. And I think Austin Howard has a chance to turn all of these guys, all 4 of them, into commits. And so we'll see what happens. And I think Gabe Fields is thinking about it. So Austin, if you're listening, get on the horn with Gabe Fields. Tell him the running back position is talented but thin. They need your help. Okay? Tell him that, and that'll get him on board. So I'm excited, man. And it's CMA Fest as well. I think that's a lot of fun for the city. And I think you're going to see some good news coming out of Nashville after the weekend, probably Sunday, Monday range there. So Vandyboys, disappointing season. Talked about how the lack of hitting was a problem, and maybe a lack of portal and some recruiting misses maybe also. We'll talk about those changes. Did that change? We'll see. All right, third and final segment here on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure you check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy, amazing show he runs. Locked On Auburn with Zach Blackerby, does a phenomenal job there too. And all the hosts on all the SEC channels, I'm going to give them some love. Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis. And I'm starting to get to know I want to get to know some of the other hosts as well. And I will be throughout the summer doing crossovers probably, and talking about how Vandy stacks up in what's likely a pretty difficult schedule. So make all that your first listen. We want you to be the most educated fan base in the SEC. We want you to know everything about the rivals as well, so that when you're having discussions, you're not just some stupid Vandy fan who doesn't really pay attention. We don't want that. That's bad. That's not good, right? If you're going to have discussions, if you're going to engage, if you're watching this show, hopefully I've made you a slightly more intelligent Vandy fan. And then some of your comments have made me a more informed and smarter Vandy fan. So I appreciate that. So everydayers, keep it coming. If you're a newcomer, stick around. And if you're somebody that's kind of wavering, this is the place to be. So that being said, Vandyboys made some changes. And to me, those changes were much, much needed. Okay. Because hitting was abysmal and recruiting, they've got some good guys on board, but I just don't feel like they utilized the portal as well as they could have. So hitting coach Mike Baxter, as well as he's the recruiting coordinator as well, but Mike Baxter and then assistant coach Tyler Shoemaker, both being let go today for the Vandyboys. And what does that mean, right? He is Baxter's been with the team for 7 seasons. He had a 12-year professional baseball career after that. This was the 3rd season for Shoemaker. But, I think, honestly, I think that making these changes, I just think you need to get some fresh voices, some fresh perspectives in there, is at least from a recruiting standpoint, and hitting the portal and from a hitting standpoint. I just think, with hitting, there's different philosophies, there's different things that change. And I think that just getting a new voice in there will benefit this ball club exponentially, because just getting a new approach at the plate, a new way of constructing the lineup, a new way of progressing through hitting development and skill development, things like that. Maybe some new techniques all around, I think is just got to be important, because like hitting has just kind of gone this way for Vandy. And this season it was this, right? It fell off a cliff, and Vandy had a really, really hard time scoring runs. I've never seen a team struggle that much. I've never seen a team leave as many players on base as they have. I mean, they stranded a Bridgestone Arena's worth of people on the base paths. I mean, it's been unreal. And just some of that's approach, some of that is scouting, some of that is, okay, well, we recruited this guy, maybe he wasn't quite as good of a power hitter, or the recruiting philosophy of like, hey, let's recruit some fast guy, let's recruit speed, let's recruit a bunch of outfielders that can convert to infield. Like maybe they weren't looking at the right aspects in recruiting to get the guys with the power hitting skill sets in the first place. Just an overall change in philosophy is always good. And anytime you can just, that's just the thing in sports, like the days of like the 40-year coach are starting to fall by the wayside, because like, I think attention spans are getting shorter. I think, programs are getting stale faster, because like you have the same voice, and it just kind of starts getting stale if you have the same voice, same staff, same everything, happening. And I think with, coaches like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, and some of the, Tom Izzo, Coach Krzyzewski, things like that, I think them changing out assistants and I think the successful ones that lately have adapted and ebbed and flowed with the times, and they've made changes, they've made pivots, they've incorporated new voices, new challenges, new just kind of embraced new ways of doing things. Like when Nick Saban, it was a huge deal when he hired Lane Kiffin, because those two are opposites. Really, like, I mean, maybe personality wise, like drive, things like that, they're probably not as opposite as we think, but in the way they do things, they are so polar opposite, and Nick Saban embracing that was a really, really big deal. And, him embracing those changes, him bringing in Steve Sarkisian after that, embraced those changes even further. And they had one of the most explosive offenses in college football history, and probably the most, if it weren't for the LSU team from the year before with Joe Burrow. Ed Orgeron had a brief renaissance when he changed his philosophy a little bit. He brought some guys in, and he kind of stepped back a little bit. Like there's things that you need to do in coaching, and it's not a bad thing. It's not that Mike Baxter's a bad coach, and he'll be fine, and I think he'll land somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I think he'll land somewhere. But anytime you can get a new voice in there, it's not a bad thing all the time. And sometimes it's good for change. I mean, this could be just as good for Baxter and Shoemaker as it is for Tim Corbin and the Vanderbilt baseball program. I mean, it's just one of those things where we'll see if it works out. We'll see who he hires. We'll see what the new philosophy means. But one thing that this year's tournaments have proved, this year's season has proved, is that you need power. They have pitching. They have great pitching. If they can hire the right guy and keep some of this pitching together and prevent these guys from getting in the portal, I think you're going to have a really good team on your hands, and a team that can probably turn around quickly, because you get, you have Braden Holcomb, who's a power bat. You have R.J. Austin, who can hit for power. You have Jonathan Vastine for being a shortstop. He hits for decent power for the position that he plays, but he can also dump and chase, and he can also run the bases and things like that. He's a really, really good player. But you have some You have some guys on that roster, and I haven't been following the Vandy baseball team as long, so I don't know the classifications of all the guys. I haven't memorized that yet, but I think you have some good pieces in there to be able to develop. I think you have some guys that are sitting there on the verge, ready to start hitting. You bring a couple guys in from the portal, and now you're looking at a pretty good lineup that's going to have some decent pop. And bring in the right guy with the right approach, and you could have yourself a team that's now hitting and pitching. Not just pitching and hoping to get run support every night. Like, that wears on the pitching staff, and it did for Vandy. So, you feel bad for the guys. You feel bad for Mike Baxter and Tyler Shoemaker. It's not fun getting fired. I'm sure Tim Corbin did not want to let them go, but it's something that needed to happen for the betterment of the program. They understand, and it's nothing personal. That's the nature of the coaching beast. It still sucks, and I feel for them. But for the program's sake, it's much needed, and I think it's going to be welcomed. And I think you're going to see a team that's going to vastly improve with a new approach. And it's just time. It was just time to refresh, and that's okay. And I wish them well. I wish Mike Baxter and Tyler Shoemaker well. They're going to be successful wherever they land. So, but that's going to do it for us. We're going to we want to get you into the weekend. Make sure you have fun. CMA Fest is this weekend. If you plan to go to any of the shows, be careful, be safe, be responsible. Don't drink and drive. Don't do anything stupid that's going to land you on Scoop Nashville, because I'm sure Scoop Nashville is going to have a whirl of a weekend after CMA Fest. So don't get yourself in trouble. Don't get yourself injured or worse, killed. So be responsible, be careful, have fun at CMA Fest. And we'll see you back here next week, hopefully talking about some more commits. If not, I'm going to give you some more reasons why I think Vandy's going to be successful. There's a lot of reasons with this overhaul. I think there's a lot of angles you can play, but I think Vandy's going to be successful. So I look forward to talking about that, maybe some recruiting, and we'll cross those bridges when we get there. Enjoy, be safe, anchor down.